Power Rangers Vengeful Vanguard. Chapter 4. Blame It on the Zeo Powers. CJ crept back into her house and slipped into her pajamas, grunting as she did due to her arm being injured. Then suddenly, her front door opened and closed. CJ, you awake? Luca called out. CJ bolted out of her bedroom and acted like she was surprised. Oh, hey, baby, I wasn't expecting you home this early, CJ gasped. Yeah, I got a bit of a telling off, and I was sent home to, air quote, clear my head, Luca sighed. Oh, come here, CJ cooed. She then hugged him. Luca leaned in and rested his head onto CJ's shoulder and held her tight. The thought of the White Ninja Steel Ranger cursed his mind. Connor Rowe was a 19-year-old boy who lived in the Magic Forest, though he did like to sneak off into the city every now and then and join in on all the fun a boy his age could have. Connor had watched CJ sneak in and out of the Magic Forest many times and believed he could do it, and eventually he did. And since that one semi-difficult night, he had found many shortcuts out of the Magical Forest. He stood on the outskirts of the camp and looked around, making sure that no one was around to spot him, and then he left the camp. He started jogging through the trees, and the forest became dark. The sky was lit up by the orange hue of the sunset. He jogged on till he reached the border and found the sewer tunnel. He made sure no guards were around, then he ran down into the tunnel and followed it to reach the manhole cover. He climbed up the ladder and removed the cover ever so slowly, and he climbed up and out of the tunnel, making sure to place the cover back. He looked around and made sure the alleyway had been cleared both ends before advancing. He walked down the street until he found the Raving Blue nightclub. He walked up to the bouncer who stood outside.
Hey, Big T. How you doing, man?
Connor asked. Doing good, dog. How's things? Big T replied.
Same old, same old. Hey, is Natasha here?
Connor asked with a hint of tease to his voice. Yeah, she's in. She's working behind the bar as usual. Big T grinned. He moved to one side and let Connor in, which started a riot of complaints from the line of people waiting to get into the nightclub. Connor ventured forth into the nightclub, and the room was filled with loud, bass-like music, flashing multicolored lights, and a lot of people dancing and drinking. Connor walked over to the bar and found Natasha cleaning the glasses.
Hey there.
Connor called out. Oh, hey there, Connor. Been a couple days. How are you? Natasha asked.
It's been slow, I'm not gonna lie.
Connor said with a small smile. Well, as long as you don't get yourself into any more fights, you can stay here and keep me company, Natasha said with a small grin. He sat down and chatted with Natasha for a few hours. The nightclub eventually died down when Connor looked around and saw the last few people trying to drag on the eventful night. My shift is over soon, by the way. If you want to leave, I won't be offended, Natasha told him. Suddenly, 3 trashy-looking guys strolled into the nightclub. One of them was carrying around a baseball bat. Oi, Natasha, we came here for the payment, the leading thug called out. Oh, damn it, Natasha barked.
Who's that?
Connor asked her. Nobody. Connor, you need to go now, Natasha snapped at him.
I am not going anywhere.
Connor snapped back. He turned around and almost walked into the 3 thugs themselves. Easy there, fancy pants. Oi, Natasha, is this your boyfriend? The thug sneered. He ain't my boyfriend, Natasha snarled. She hopped over the bar and got between Connor and the trio of thugs. I don't have your money yet, Natasha barked. We know you do, and the big boss wants it, the thug yelled. Natasha let out a slight chuckle. Then she threw a punch and hit the leading thug right in the face. He staggered back, falling into his friends. Natasha grabbed Connor's hand, and she ran off, pulling Connor with her. He followed Natasha out of the room and up a set of stairs. They entered the office that sat above the nightclub, and Natasha let go of Connor. She ducked down and removed a plank of wood from the floor and pulled out a box that was hidden inside. She opened it and pulled out something wrapped in black fabric and passed it to Connor.
What is this?
Connor asked, confused. Put it in your goddamn pocket, okay? I don't have time to explain, Natasha blurted.
But what about you? What about those dudes?
Connor asked, confused. Those aren't dudes, they're monsters in disguise. They pretend to be human, and they want this. I just tell them that I don't have it, so they make me pay them until it turns up. Now I can store them, but not for long, Natasha growled, fear vibrating in her voice. Connor held on to the object in question and shoved it into his pocket. Then Connor grabbed Natasha and kissed her. They held the kiss for only a second. Then Natasha pushed him off. Now go, you lovable dork, Natasha said, pointing to the window. Connor ran to the window and climbed out of it. He landed on the fire escape. He started making his way down and landed on the ground safely. He looked around. He checked his watch and he knew he would have to start making his way back to the magic forest soon anyway, sooner rather than later. He then started walking out of the alley he found himself in, when suddenly there was a crashing sound, a loud scream. Then Natasha hit the floor right in front of him. Blood and glass rained around him. He ran up to Natasha and checked her pulse. Connor dropped to his knees. Tears ran down his face. Connor was about to scream out Natasha's name, scream at the top of his voice, when suddenly a beautiful warm light engulfed Connor. He looked up, and a silver figure stood before him. Hello, Connor. I am sorry about Natasha, the silver figure said.
Who the hell are you?
Connor gasped. I am the Silver Morphing Master, and I'm here to ask you of a favor, the being replied.
A silver what?
Connor asked, confused. Natasha gave you the morpher, making you the new ranger, the Silver Morphing Master explained. Yes, Natasha was safeguarding one of the morphers. When I figured out what was going on, it seemed like I got here a bit too late, the Silver Morphing Master explained, looking down at Natasha's body.
Morphers?
Connor blurted. He then remembered the object in his pocket. He pulled it out and unfolded the black cloth, revealing 2 wrist morphers.
Why did Natasha have a morpher?
Connor asked. She refused to take the offer of being the Power Ranger, but she was willing to take the job of looking for the next candidate, the Silver Morphing Master told him.
So why she give it to me?
Connor asked. She saw something in you, the Silver Morphing Master replied.
Me? Be a Power Ranger?
Connor stated in disbelief. If you choose to be, yes, the Silver Morphing Master said back to him. Suddenly the 3 thugs came barging out of the building and approached Connor. This is your chance. I can only save you this once. Or you can morph and take them down, the Silver Morphing Master muttered.
Let's kick some ass,
Connor said through his teeth. He stood up as he strapped both of the wrist morphers on his wrists. He turned to the thugs, the Silver Morphing Master phasing away from existence. Give those to me, the leader of the trio barked. Connor shook his head. He then held out both wrists. His body moved like it was being manipulated by an unknown force. His mind knew exactly what to do. He then held one arm up and then crossed the other arm in front of it, connecting both devices. The gold circle flipped open.
Zeo Ranger, 3, blue!
Connor called out, and then suddenly his suit formed around him, and he morphed into the blue Zeo Ranger. The thug growled and placed his hands on his 2 friends. A black energy siphoned off of them. They both dropped to the ground, and they shifted into their monster forms, but they were lifeless. Then the leading thug shifted into his monster form, a mantis-themed monster with 2 blades for hands.
This is awesome! I can feel the power!
The Blue Ranger blurted as he examined his own body. The monster ran at the Blue Zeo Ranger and swung his blades. The Blue Ranger ran and slid across the ground, sliding under the attack. He got to his feet and kicked the monster in the back. He then flipped over the monster and summoned his Zeo 3 power tonfas and hit the monster several times. The monster slashed the Blue Ranger and sparks exploded off of him. The Ranger staggered back, but quickly found his feet. He jumped up, spun around, and in mid-air he swung one of his tonfas with an almighty kick, and he slashed the monster then with his tonfas. Then he kicked the monster back once more, and the monster flew down the alley and crashed into the road. He stood up, he took one step, then fell forward and exploded. The Blue Ranger demorphed, and Connor looked at his wrists. The morphers were gone. Instead, he had a watch on his wrist that replaced it. Don't worry, Connor. They are still there, just hidden to the naked eye. The voice of the Silver Morphing Master echoed in his mind.
What do I do now?
Connor asked. Do what you need to do. Then find the White Ninja Steel Ranger. The Silver Morphing Master told him. Then Connor could no longer feel his presence. Connor took a deep breath in, then returned to Natasha's body and scooped her up. He carried her into the nightclub and placed her on the floor. Then he found some flammable liquid and poured it everywhere, and then he found a box of matches and lit one. He then flicked it and hit the flammable puddles and caught a blaze. Connor took one deep breath in.
I am sorry, Natasha. I'm gonna do better. I promise.
Connor mumbled, a tear strolling down his cheek. He then walked out of the nightclub and walked away, letting the building burn. He then made his way back to the forest and found his way back into camp. He climbed into his hut, laid down, and within a few minutes he was asleep.
What you have just listened to is a product created by the Three Ranger Bros Studio.
Hosted by three cosplaying fathers who
happen to be massive geeks of all sorts of fandoms.
They are Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger,
Cosplay Dude 637,
and Tai Tiger.
The studio covers different types of YouTube videos, TikToks, podcasts, and live streams.
If you wish to find out who cosplays who, the YouTube channels, the TikTok accounts, and the podcasts, and all of the other social media platforms,
please go to the 3rangerbrostudios.com.